Hi guys and welcome back to Karting with Sean. In today's video we're at Mr Karting in Warwickshire for the first race of the Heavyweight Hustle Championship. This is a year-long championship that's split between two classes, pros and rookies. And for this year I'll be competing in the rookie class. And let me talk you through how this championship works. To be able to compete in this championship you have to weigh at least 80 kilograms. You then get ballasted up to 110 kilograms. That's so it's fair for everybody and we have an equal playing field. The way to make it to the pro class is to compete in the sprint series that Mr Karting hold, or to win the previous round in the rookie class. The way these rounds work is we first get sent out for a 5-minute practice session, which then goes straight into a Super Pole qualifying. Once everyone has set a qualifying time, everyone is returned to the pits and split into two groups, A and B. These are a mix of pro and rookie drivers, so it's kind of like multi-class racing. We then go out for 3 heats in our respective groups, and the way the grids are formed vary between each round. For the first heat it's usually qualifying order, the second heat is usually reverse heat 1 finishing order, heat 3 is then I believe based on points, and then the fourth and final heat is the trophy final. If I'm honest, I'm not too sure how the point system works here, but we just go with the flow. But now enough yapping, let's get into my qualifying lap. Now you may or may not have noticed, but the track is wet for today's race, which obviously is going to slow things down a lot. This track usually is a hell of a lot quicker. You can see the amount of understeer through there and oversteer as well. And as we go to finish our out lap and go onto a flying lap, I force myself into a barrier. Not the way you want to start your qualifying lap. But as I qualify, let me talk you through the layout of this track. Turn 1 is a very long left-handed corner, with a mini straight going into turn 2 a long right-hander. Turns 3 and 4 are taken very quickly, whilst obviously braking earlier for the wet conditions. Turn 5 here, also known as extension, is a hairpin left-hander. I didn't really have a good exit out of that. Next, turn 6 and 7 is a chicane. Turn 8 is a quick left-hander which leads you straight into 9 and 10 being the final corner on the track, which takes you then to the start-finish line. And that is the end of my Super Pole lap. Obviously in wet conditions, I'm not very quick, I don't really have much experience in the wet outdoors. But this landed me 15th fastest out of 18 drivers. Not really the result you wanted for the first race of the season. Absolutely awful. Coming out of the pits now for the first heat of the race, I line up P8 out of 9. As I mentioned before, they're split into 2 groups, as well as 2 groups of 9, and I've qualified 8th, not 15th out of 18. As we wait for the last kart to get in his grid spot, we wait for the lights to go green. And it's lights out and away we go, and I get a kind of decent start. I don't lose or gain any positions going into turn 1, but you can already see this gap forming ahead of me. Now coming into turns 4 and 5, the pack gets bunched up quite a lot from the slow moving traffic, so I managed to get back onto the bumper of the 8. Quickly check my shoulder, see if anyone's making a move, which they're not, so I move back to the racing line and stick behind the 8 through the chicane. But here you see the straight line advantage as they're making that very slight gap increase. But once again we managed to make it back up through braking all the way through this section. You see here, I get right on the bumper of him once again, and now back onto the start finish straight. Coming into turn 1 I managed to catch a bit more under braking as car 8 makes a bit of an error. I took it up the inside to try and make the move done, but he's still there on my outside, keeps it there, and I think he keeps his position. Yes he does, as he cuts me off here. You might have noticed I took a bit of a different line through 4 and 5. That's because I started experimenting with different lines to try and find where the grip was, because I needed to catch these guys. Coming into 8, you see a driver spin ahead of me, and that guy diving up the inside. You know what? There's no yellow flags, the move was on, fair enough to him. He's made a position on me, but the guy who's spun obviously has lost all of his positions. But now I've got to catch the guy in the yellow. I catch a bit more under braking, give him a bit of a love tap there, checking my shoulder to see if there's any attacks, which there isn't, and the 4's just made more ground. I try and hang it around the outside of turn 2 where the bit more grip is off the racing line for the wet conditions, and I follow him all the way through 3, 4 and 5, but not without any corrections. Almost made contact with the 4 there again as I had to slam on the brakes as he pretty much parked it on the apex. I'd thought about it up the inside there going into the chicane, but due to conditions obviously overtaking's a hell of a lot more risky, especially from that far back. Coming onto the start finish straight, I have a bit of a better exit than the 4, allowing us to go side by side for a little bit here, and I take the position going into turn 1. After checking my shoulders to making sure I secured the position, my focus is now on the guys ahead. Unfortunately, I'm just not quick enough to catch up with these guys, so you can see the gaps increase as we go yellow for the first time in this heat. Reason for the yellow is this guy here has managed to spin or something, or put himself in the barrier, not too sure, but Marshall's clearing him quite quickly. As we're now allowed to go back up to full racing speed. After some uneventful laps, I put myself into the barrier on the exit of that corner there, and I am getting lapped here. Not really the greatest feeling in the world, but given my experience in the wet, I kind of expected it in a way. I tried to stick with him for at least a few corners to see where it's faster, but it just appears to be everywhere. Then this happens. That absolutely horrific mistake has now put me in dead last. Now I guess all I can really do is try and get P8 again to break even, so let's skip to the fight. Now coming into the last lap of the heat, the car ahead makes a horrible mistake, as do I, but I still manage to gain some time on him. It takes a bit of a shallower line through turn 2 as I go a bit wider to get more grip. I managed to catch up a lot more through 4 and 5 as he goes very deep on the exit of extension. And now I'm right on his bumper through the chicane. He brakes a bit earlier than I was expecting, so that kind of caught me off guard, so he gains a bit more space there. Coming into turn 8, he makes a big correction, having a snap of oversteer. I follow him through 9 and 10 very closely. I have a look up the inside on the exit, but I don't have enough. That is last in the first heat. Give him a thumbs up to say well done on the racing, but I am really not happy with that result. But yeah, as I mentioned, I finished last in that heat. My best lap was a 43.915, and I've scored 8 points in the first heat. Nothing to be too proud of, but I guess really the only place I can go is up. Now we go into heat 2, which is a reverse finishing order of heat 1. So that means I'm starting on pole, which absolutely had me shaking in my boots. I was so nervous coming into this heat. But let's just see how long I can hold this lead on for. And it's lights out and away we go for the second heat. I try and force my car forward, which gets me a little bit of a better start. I still haven't lost any positions going into turn 2. Keeping it a bit tight to be on the defensive line, and we've kept the lead so far. I take it very carefully around turns 4 and 5, trying not to spin out, and I've still kept this lead somehow. After a messy few corners, we go into turn 8, and there is a car tucked my inside. I managed to stay side by side through 8 and 9, but he's got the inside going to 10, so the lead is now his. I couldn't even hold the lead for one lap. Still managed to stick with the 4 for a while as he makes a bit of an error on the exit of turn 1. Managed to keep my nose on the inside of his rear axle, but he's got the inside line of turn 2. I don't know what he does different here, but his acceleration out of turn 2 is just incredible as he increased the gap by a mile. I brake a bit later going into 4 and 5, so gaps closed just a little bit more, but then he's just off again with the acceleration. Managed to drift the car a little bit into 6, coming out of 7, and the gap is just miles ahead, and now I've got a cart on my right I've got to try and defend from. I send it very hard into 8, making me go very wide, and same things like deja vu, cart on my inside of turn 10, and he's had his position. As I'm trying my absolute best to keep up with the two in front, I go very wide into turn 1. You can see the shadow of the kart there on my left. I go very wide into turn 2 here, allowing to get more grip off the racing line, and I actually managed to keep up a bit until I hit the barrier. But well, speaking of deja vu, let me talk you through what happened next. It was really messy, and I mean, it looked like on my footage that I absolutely just murdered James after he saved me from a spin. I've slowed down the footage here to help you see what's happened. So I absolutely murder myself into 4. James corrects me out of a spin by hitting me, and then I unfortunately force my way through him, and I get hit in the rear there by 3 different drivers, and there again. So it was a complete domino effect that meant me hitting James and him spinning now is at the back of the grid. I didn't mean any of that. But anyway, let's get back to the normal racing. I've just been overtaken by 3 drivers, including Harvey and Fran. Fran there in front of me and Harvey in front of her. After that bit of vehicular terrorism, I have been demoted to P7 after just 4 laps. I then get distracted by something and send Fran right wide into turn 1, and now I've got KTB on my inside. You can catch just a glimpse of Kevin's kart there on the inside as he tries to have a look, but I close the door on him. And then get an absolutely another horrific entry into turn 4 and 5, keeping it a bit tight as Kevin bumps me in the back just to remind me that he's there. We get a little glimpse of him there around the outside, but I keep the inside line, trying to stay a bit defensive. I'm just trying to keep any position that I can after those first few horrendous laps. But I think the pressure got to me a bit here as I absolutely send it into turn 1, going really, really wide. Absolutely messing myself up and letting Kevin and James through. I mean, usually you see people doing last to first challenges, but not me. No, I think different. I do first to last challenges. I mean, it's got to be some sort of record, losing 8 positions in 5 laps. I mean, come on, you got to give me some credit there. But unfortunately, after those events, nothing else really happened. But luckily a few drivers ahead got penalties, so I got promoted up to P7 with the fastest time of a 44.051, managing to grab 10 points along with it. Now we're going out on track for the 3rd heat. The grid for this one is formed by reverse points positions, not general points positions. So once again, I'm starting on pole because I haven't had a great evening so far. And it's lights out and away we go for the 3rd heat. We get another okay-ish start from pole position, checking my shoulders there to make sure no one's on the attack through turn 2. I carry on taking these corners very carefully as I don't want to spin again, as I already have done twice in these races. I have a little bit of a better run through at the extension, having a bit of correction on the exit, but still keeping it P1. I mean, this heat has already just been a hell of a lot better. I haven't been overtaken in lap 1. I've managed to be in the lead for a whole lap and I haven't touched the barrier, I think. So, already a big improvement here. And there's someone on the outside, so we'll hold that thought, I guess. I think we make a bit of contact there, so I'll wave my hand to apologise to him as I carry on defending. Oh, up the inside they go. I think that's Fran. If it is, it's a fair attempt, but I've managed to keep the position. And it is Fran. She switches back and takes the lead. We now cut to lap 3 where we have Harvey on the inside of us going into turn 8. He has a much better acceleration on the straight and out of 7, so he takes us nice and easily through there. That now brings me down to P3. I'm now trying to keep up with Harvey, but he is just a little bit quicker than me. Go into turn 1 and I completely outbrake myself, sending myself wide, and now with Stu on the inside and he takes P3, leaving me now P4. A few corners later and we get yet another case of deja vu. This time we have Jensen on the inside instead of Harvey and he just zooms straight past me going into 8. A few corners later and after trying to keep up with Jensen I go wide into turn 2 and this kart 16 here somehow finds grip on the inside of turn 2. I don't know how they've done it but they made it stick, so fair play to them. 5 laps later and here's me thinking I'm on my own at the back of this race Little did I know there was this guy behind me and absolutely sends it up turn 2. He makes a bit of an error on the exit, keeps on checking his shoulder to see where I am. We keep on fighting through 4 and 5. I haven't quite lost the position yet, we keep on battling through extension, and I've now got the inside going into the 6 and 7 chicane. Luckily he goes just a bit deep there, allowing me to keep it up the inside and keep my position. I look over my shoulder to make sure he's not making a move, so I go to the outside to take the racing line through 8, 9 and 10, keep it in behind me, and little did I know this was the last lap of the race, so I really needed to defend that position, and I'm glad I did. But that's it now for the third heat. Next race will be the trophy final. I finished this heat in P6 out of 9 positions with my best lap of 43.957 and 11 more points to my name. Going out on track now for the 4th and final race of this evening. Unfortunately I didn't score enough points to qualify for the A final, so I'll have to settle for the B final, where I'm going to be starting 6th. And it's lights out and away we go for the final time this evening. I get a pretty good start and end up going side by side towards turn 2 with P5. B manages just to sneak ahead towards the apex, and I managed to stick with him going towards turn 3. Going into extension now, and I get a little bit wide on my exit at 4, allow me to set up decently for 5, and I'm still fairly close with the P5 in front. He now joins the guys in front for a battle and gets a little bit of a better run out of the chicane. And now he gets a bit sideways going into 8, which means I give him a little bit of a love tap, meaning he gets a little bit of a boost as well. We all get a bit of a messy exit out of 10, and that is the first lap of the final complete. I have a little think of going up the inside of turn 1, but there's just not enough room there, and I get hit from behind, sending me wide. And I think that contact made the person that hit me spin out. So I've lost a bit of ground to P5 from that, but we keep fighting and try and get the position off him. We actually now skip to the last lap of the race, where we meet this guy here who has spun going into turn 4. It was a very uneventful final for me, but that last lap position gain, it was a nice end to an absolute terrible evening on my half. We now go back into the pits to finish off the first race of the heavyweight hustle season. Wasn't really my finest performances, there was rather tricky conditions that I'm not used to at all, but we live and we learn, I guess. But we round off the evening in P5 with a best lap of a 43.601 and 5 more points for the championship. Not too sure why the points are reduced in the final, but it is what it is, I guess. And we move on to the next round. So after round 1, I find myself 15th in the championship out of 18 after scoring 34 points. There's a 3-point deficit to Gregor behind me and a 4-point gap towards Jacob in front. This puts me 7th in the rookies class, and I hope I can improve that in the next few rounds. Now all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching, especially if you made it this far. If you could please like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you all in the next video.